They say water remembers every ripple, every stone thrown in, every whisper carried across its surface. For me, the lake wasn't just water. It was my childhood. It was where I learned to fish with my father, where I first fell into the water and he pulled me out laughing, where my mother's voice used to echo, calling us home before sunset. So when I came back decades later, a man in his 60s with a gray beard and a heart full of memories, I knew I had to save it. The lake had been abandoned, dried at the edges, covered with weeds, and left to rot. I bought it, restored it with my own hands, and brought it back to life. But then came the HOA entitled board of people who thought they could steal what was mine. What I had rebuilt with sweat, money, and heart. I still remember the first time I walked down the dirt path after signing the papers. The lake looked tired, like an old man with sunken cheeks, but I could still see its beauty. The birds circled above, the wind whistled through the reeds, and I whispered to myself, "Me, don't worry, old friend. I'm back, and I'm not leaving you again." That was the moment everything started. I hired workers to clear the weeds, to dredge the water, to bring fresh life back. I planted trees, built a wooden dock, and even placed a small bench at the spot where my father used to sit. Every evening, I sat there alone, just listening to the water, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. It didn't take long before people in the nearby houses started walking over, curious about what I was doing. Most were kind. One old man, Mr. Richardson, came by one evening. "Mr. Richardson, you've done more for this lake in a month than the county did in 20 years. You've brought life back, son. Me, it's not just a lake to me. It's family." But not everyone saw it that way. The HOA president, a woman named Carol, came strutting down with her clipboard like she owned the earth. "Carol, excuse me, sir. I hope you understand that this lake falls under our jurisdiction. Any improvements must go through the HOA board. Me, with all due respect, I bought this lake. The deed is in my name. It's private property." She gave me a smile, cold, thin, sharp like glass. "Carol, we'll see about that." A week later, I got a letter. Bold letters at the top, notice of violation. They claimed my restoration project was unauthorized and that I owed the HOA a fine. A fine for fixing my own property. I stormed into the next HOA meeting. The room was full of people sitting behind long tables, sipping coffee like judges in some petty courtroom. Carol sat at the center, smirking me. "This is nonsense. I bought the lake. I restored it. You have no authority over it. Carol, according to our records, the lake has always been considered community property. If you think you can just waltz in and claim it, you're mistaken." The room went silent. My chest burned with anger. Me? Community property? Where were you when the lake was dying? Where were you when trash piled up on the shore, when no one cared? Have you ever stood in front of a bully who smiles as they rob you, daring you to stop them? That's what it felt like. The HOA didn't care about deeds, law, or truth. They wanted the lake because it was beautiful again. And when greedy people see something beautiful, they don't admire it, they try to take it. The next morning, I marched to the county clerk's office with my folder of documents, the deed, the restoration permits, everything. The clerk, a young man with glasses, looked at the papers carefully. "Clerk, everything looks in order, sir. The lake is legally yours. The HOA has no jurisdiction here." I felt relief wash over me, but it didn't last long. Because the very next day, Carol and 2 board members showed up at my property. "Carol, you may have some papers, but we have the community. People want access to this lake, and as HOA, we represent them. If you don't cooperate, we'll make sure your life here is miserable. Me, I didn't bring this lake back to life so you could trample it. You don't own it, and you never will." She leaned closer, her perfume sharp, her voice colder than the water. "Carol, we'll see about that weekend." I found beer cans floating in the water, trash scattered across the dock, and even graffiti sprayed on the wooden bench I had built in my father's memory. My hands shook as I cleaned it up. "Me, this isn't about a lake anymore. It's about respect. When I confronted Carol, she raised her eyebrows innocently. Carol, oh dear, maybe it's just teenagers. Lakes attract all sorts of people. That's why the HOA should manage it. We can keep it safe. Her words cut deep. She didn't just want the lake. She wanted to erase me from it. One evening, as I sat staring at the water, wondering if I was too old for this fight, Mr. Richardson came by again. Mr. Richardson, I knew your father, you know. We fished here together when you were just a boy. He used to say, this lake belongs to no one but the one who loves it enough to care for it. And you've done that, son. Don't let them take it away. His words brought tears to my eyes. For a moment, I felt my father's presence, as if he were standing beside me, urging me on. The next HOA meeting was packed. Neighbors filled the room, whispering and staring at me as if I were some intruder. Carol stood at the front, her voice dripping with authority. Carol, this man is claiming ownership of our community lake. He's limiting access, acting like a king over something that belongs to all of us. Gasps filled the room. People looked at me with suspicion. My blood boiled, but I stood tall. Me, I am not limiting anyone. I restored the lake with my own money, my own hands. Here's the deed, signed, sealed, and legal. This lake was abandoned until I brought it back. If it was truly yours, where were you all those years? The room grew silent. Some neighbors looked ashamed. Others still glared. Carol, however, didn't flinch. Carol deeds can be challenged, and we're prepared to do just that. A week later, I was served papers. The HOA had filed a lawsuit claiming the lake was community property by historical use. My stomach dropped. I was a retired man, living off savings. They had an entire association's budget behind them. I called my daughter, my voice heavy. Me, they're suing me, sweetheart. They want to drag this out until I give up. Daughter, then don't give up. Dad, you've always taught me to stand up to bullies. Hire a lawyer. We'll figure out the rest. Her strength gave me mine. But deep down, fear gnawed at me. Could I really fight an entire board? One night I walked to the dock alone. The moonlight shimmered on the water, calm and beautiful, as if mocking the chaos around it. I whispered into the night. They say battles are won not on fields, but in hearts. And at that point, my heart was torn in two, half of me weighed down by fear, the other burning with determination. The HOA had money, lawyers, and influence. All I had was truth and the lake. But sometimes, truth is enough if you're willing to bleed for it. I sat across from a lawyer named James, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a calm voice. James, your deed is solid. The county records confirm it's yours. The HOA's claim is weak, but they're banking on you giving up before this drags out. Me, I'm a retired man, James. I don't have endless funds for court battles. James, then we'll keep it simple. Counter their lies with facts. And if you've got witnesses who can vouch for the condition of the lake before you bought it, even better. I thought of the neighbors who came to my door. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I feared. The first day in court was brutal. Carol walked in like a queen, surrounded by board members in suits. They looked smug, whispering to each other as if victory was already theirs. The judge, an older woman with piercing eyes, listened carefully as their lawyer spoke. HOA lawyer, Your Honor. The lake has been used by the community for decades. By historical precedent, it belongs to the HOA and its residents. This man has unreasonably restricted access. I clenched my fists. Lies rolled off his tongue like honey. When it was my turn, James stood tall. James, Your Honor, the property was abandoned for years. My client purchased it legally, invested his own resources to restore it, and holds the deed. The HOA never maintained it, never paid taxes on it, never claimed responsibility until now, when it became valuable again. Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Carol shot me a glare sharp enough to cut glass. After court, I found a note pinned to my dock. It read, "You can't win. Sell the lake to the HOA now, before it's too late." I looked around, heart pounding, but no one was there. That night, I heard footsteps near the water, then a splash. Running out, I saw the dock rope cut, my small rowboat drifting away, me cowards. You think you can scare me? You'll regret this. My voice echoed across the still lake, but no answer came back. Just silence. Days turned into weeks. The court dates, the tension, the constant harassment hit wore me down. I snapped at my daughter on the phone one night. I'm tired, Emily. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just walk away, daughter. No, Dad. Don't you dare. You've always told me giving up isn't an option when the cause is right. You saved that lake. Don't let them steal it. Her voice cracked with emotion, and I realized this fight wasn't just about me anymore. It was about what kind of man I wanted to be remembered as. The next court hearing was different. James called Mr. Richardson as a witness. The old man shuffled forward, leaning on his cane, but his voice was strong. Mr. Richardson, I've lived by that lake for 50 years. The HOA never cared for it, never spent a dime on it. We all thought it was gone forever, until he came back. He brought life, birds, fish, children's laughter. This isn't community property. This is his love made visible. I swallowed hard as tears stung my eyes. Even the judge leaned forward, visibly moved. Carol, however, rolled her eyes and whispered to her lawyer. She wasn't touched. She was enraged. Just when things looked hopeful, Carol played her dirtiest card. She produced old photographs, neighbors swimming in the lake decades ago. Children playing by its shores, Carol. As you can see, Your Honor, the lake has always been used by the community. That makes it communal property. The judge frowned, examining the photos. My heart sank. Old memories twisted into weapons. James whispered to me, "Don't panic. We'll counter this." There are moments in life when you stand on the edge of losing everything, not just property, not just money, but your very dignity. That's where I was. One more court hearing, one more chance, and it would all be decided. The HOA thought they had me cornered. But what they didn't understand was that some battles aren't fought with money or rules, they're fought with truth. Love and history carved into the soul. The courtroom was packed that morning. Neighbors filled every seat, whispering nervously. Carol walked in like she already won, chin high, smirk plastered across her face. The judge looked tired but focused. We'll hear closing arguments. Carol's lawyer stood first, his voice smooth. HOA lawyer. Your Honor, the lake has always served as community property. We've shown photographs, testimony, and historical use. To allow one man to claim it as his own would be unjust to the entire neighborhood. Carol folded her arms, smug as ever. Then it was James's turn. He stood slowly, adjusting his glasses. His tone calm, but cutting James. Your Honor, photographs of children playing decades ago do not prove ownership. Memories do not override deeds. The law is clear. This lake was private property. It's left to decay until my client invested his life savings, time, and sweat to restore it. The HOA never maintained it, never paid taxes on it, never filed a claimant till now when it became valuable again. That isn't justice. That's theft disguised as entitlement. A murmur rippled through the room. My chest swelled with both pride and fear. The judge turned to me. Mr. Miller, would you like to say anything before I make a ruling? I stood, my legs shaking. My throat was dry, but I forced the words out. Me, Your Honor. This lake isn't just water to me. It's where I learned to fish with my father. It's where my mother's voice called me home. When I returned years later, it was dying. No one cared. Not the HOA, not the community. I spent every penny I could to bring it back to life. And I didn't do it to keep people out. I did it because I couldn't bear to watch it die. I paused, my eyes burning with tears. But now they want to take it. Not because they loved it, not because they cared, but because they saw something beautiful and decided it should be theirs. If that's what justice means, then I don't know what's left in this world. The room went silent. Even the judge looked moved. Just as the judge prepared to speak, James cleared his throat. James, one final piece of evidence, Your Honor. He handed over tax records, 10 years' worth. Every year, I had paid taxes on the property. The HOA. Nothing. Not a single cent. The judge raised her eyebrows. Judge, so the HOA claims ownership, but never once assumed responsibility. Interesting. Carol's face went pale. She whispered furiously to her lawyer. But it was too late. The judge's gavel came down with a sharp crack. Judge, the deed and tax records are clear. The lake belongs solely to Mr. Miller. The HOA has no jurisdiction. Any further attempts to harass him will result in penalties. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Some clapped, some gasped, and Carol. She stormed out, red-faced, muttering under her breath. I sank into my chair, my body trembling with relief. Tears streamed down my cheeks. It was over. I had one. That evening I sat on the dock, watching the sunset paint the lake in gold and crimson. Mr. Richardson joined me. Lowering himself slowly onto the bench, Mr. Richardson, your father would be proud, son. You didn't just save a lake. You saved its soul. I smiled weakly, wiping a tear. Me. I didn't do it alone. The neighbors who stood with me, my daughter, even this lake itself kept me going. I reached down, letting the cool water run through my fingers. It felt alive, vibrant, and safe at last. Later, my daughter arrived with her kids. They ran along the dock, laughing, throwing stones into the water just like I once did. My daughter sat beside me, slipping her hand into mine. Daughter, see, Dad? This place isn't just for you. It's for all of us. For generations, her words filled my chest with warmth. I realized then that the lake wasn't mine to own in spirit.